afternoon, everyone, and welcome to News 3 Now, live at 4 on this Wednesday. Less than an hour before spring.
And spring is here, officially.
4:58, right as we go off the air on this broadcast.
That's right. And Lisa Briggs from the Bruce Company will be here with us in just a little while. That'll get us in the mood for spring.
But first, here's what's making news on this Wednesday. The plot thickens at the Henry Vilas Zoo. Madeline O'Neill is here to help sort out the latest allegations and report on the zoo and the Zoological Society.
They say there are 2 seasons in Wisconsin. I'm sure you've heard that: winter and road construction. So what to expect starting tomorrow?
Road construction? Okay. And President Trump continues his tirades against John McCain. What he had to say today about the former senator, as well as a critic who is still alive.
Let's take a look outside today. Nice afternoon.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
It was nice and mild.
Dry. Spring has, well, almost sprung, right? Dave Caulfield's in the backyard with the countdown is on.
Yeah, jumping the gun a little bit there. We have about an hour to go, as you mentioned, Mark and Susan, until the start of spring. I don't think it's going to be like New Year's Eve where the ball will drop, but it's pretty exciting stuff. Now, Mother Nature may not always comply with the calendar, but at least we have something to look forward to, and spring weather, warmer weather on the way over the next couple of months in general. However, a cold front is moving through southern Wisconsin right now and could spark off a few sprinkles outside, maybe a light rain shower or two over the next couple of hours. Really not seeing any big impacts from any raindrops this afternoon and evening, which is good news. We have mostly cloudy skies right now in Madison, the WISC-TV Skycam. A little bit on the breezy side in spots as well. Southwest wind at 9 miles per hour, making the 47 feel a little bit more like 43. So we're at 48 in Janesville right now, 45 in Lone Rock, and into the 30s where that cold front has already passed in Camp Douglas and Viroqua. And if you factor in the wind and the breeze, it feels a little bit more like the upper 30s and mid 40s. So your day planner, we will continue to fall through the 40s under cloudy skies into the upper 30s by later on tonight. Hopefully we can get some breaks in the clouds to see the supermoon tonight. It's not looking all that promising, unfortunately. Traffic is looking a little bit more promising on the First Alert traffic update. There we go. East Washington and Blair Street downtown not looking too bad at the present time. And downtown starting to see a few brake lights pile up, but nothing too crazy. As we zoom out, the Beltline actually not looking too bad for this time of the afternoon. And keep in mind, there still are some flooded roads across Dane County and across portions of southern Wisconsin. So remember to avoid those. Then let's look at your drive times. Eastbound John Nolan to the interstate, that's 4 minutes, so looking good. Average speed of around 60 miles per hour. And some other routes in and around Madison, Middleton to Sauk City westbound on Highway 12. That is 18 minutes, so that's looking good as well, with an average speed of around 55 miles per hour. And that is your First Alert traffic update. We'll talk about what temperatures are doing into the first weekend of spring coming up in your First Alert forecast in just a few minutes.
Looking forward to that. Thank you, Dave. We'll see you then.
Thank you, Dave. First at 4, newly released documents are showing concerns about animal welfare at Madison's Henry Vilas Zoo.
They're also revealing a strained relationship between Dane County Zoo staff and the Henry Vilas Zoological Society. That's the nonprofit that partners with the county to support the zoo. It comes as the county is ending that long-term partnership with the society. Our Madeline O'Neill joining us now to sort out the latest. Maddie?
All right, well, this is all in the midst of an ongoing dispute involving the way the Henry Vilas Zoological Society collects money, but we're learning there's more to this story. Dane County documents show the society alleged last fall that the zoo's executive director used derogatory, sexually explicit language toward the society's staff. But a Dane County Human Resources investigation released yesterday found no basis for discipline against Director Rhonda Schwetz. Dane County is parting ways with the HVZS, expressing worries that the society's proposals to stage animal trainings and exercise control over zoo operations might put the zoo's accreditation at risk. But a report released by the county to News 3 Now from the accreditation agency, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, last year listed major concerns at the zoo, such as animals spending too much time in small or sparse areas and insufficient veterinary coverage. This free zoo means a lot to patrons like Karen Fisher and her daughter, Brittany Spoody, who visit whenever they get a chance.
I don't don't think the zoo's gonna go anywhere. It might have some changes, but don't let that harm you to stop coming. It's all about the animals.
Right.
That's all it should ever care about is the animals.
Dane County is now seeking a new fundraising partner. The current partnership officially ends March 31st, and county officials say they're making arrangements so zoo visitors don't notice a difference come April 1st. The county says their main priority is keeping the zoo open and free to all, adding that most of the AZA's concerns in last year's report have been addressed, and the ones that remain center on the need for extra staff. Now, we reached out to the zoo's director and the HVZS. They didn't respond for comment today.
All right, thanks, Maddie.
You're welcome.
And we should also mention that WISC-TV has a joint marketing agreement with the Friends of the Henry Vilas Zoo, which includes various things like sponsorship of zoo events and the weather camera that you see on the air.
A Beloit mother is back with her toddler this afternoon after the boy was spotted walking down the street wearing only a pull-up diaper. It happened this morning around 7:30 near the 1500 block of Roosevelt Avenue. When police arrived, the boy was cold but didn't have any injuries. Police then canvassed the neighborhood for close to an hour before finding the boy's mother. They say this happens more than you'd think.
I'd say on average once every other month. And it's either way. Either there's a child found and then we try to locate the parents, or parents call saying, I just woke up, I just got home, my kid's not in the house.
Child Protective Services were called, but police say this does not appear to be a case of child neglect. As winter comes to a close, spring brings with it plenty of orange.
As in construction barrels, and get ready for major work on Verona Road. Eric Franke joining us now with an update on the massive road project there. Eric?
And it may be the most ambitious portion of this project to date, Mark and Susan, but if you pay attention and folks drive carefully, it'll take some adjustments, but traffic hiccups will be kept at a minimum. Tomorrow night, they'll be moving the traffic. Nightly lane closures will begin from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m., and they'll be building 3 bridges this construction season. One to carry Williamsburg Way traffic over Verona Road, and then 2 more bridges on each side of Verona Road at the intersection with Highway PD. PD will actually go under Verona Road.
There will be a reduced speed limit of 40 miles an hour through the Verona Road work zone, so make sure people are obeying the posted speed limits, as well as just being alert to your surroundings. Don't tailgate in the work zone, and make sure that everyone can safely reach their destination.
And first, they'll finish the intersection at Verona Road at Raymond Road, and then get to work on the core of Verona Road and those bridges. Businesses along that stretch will remain open. Eventually, it'll be 3 lanes in each direction in that stretch, and they can't stress enough. Take it easy. Pay close attention to the traffic changes, especially the first few times you try to navigate that stretch. By the way, some 60,000 vehicles a day travel that route. Also, an important reminder to keep those phones down. Always keep your eyes out for workers, because it is Mark and Susan that season once again. So
yes,
get ready.
It is. Happy spring.
Yes.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
President Trump continues his attacks against late Senator John McCain on the road this afternoon during his remarks at an Army tank plant in Ohio. Earlier, he used Twitter to launch attacks against McCain and one of his biggest critics. Mola Langhi has more details from the White House.
Georgia Senator Johnny Isakson is speaking out against President Trump over his criticisms of the late Senator John McCain. He called the president's comments about McCain deplorable.
I wanted to be crystal clear that we need to talk with the politics of the military any way we want to, but we don't talk about our veterans anyway, but to brag on them for the service they render, the job that they do.
So I have to be honest, I've never liked him much. I endorsed him at his request, and I gave him the kind of funeral that he wanted, which as president, I had to approve. I don't care about this. I didn't get thank you. That's okay. We sent him on the way.
He's still upset over McCain's 2017 vote against a Republican effort to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act.
He campaigned on repealing and replacing Obamacare for years, and then he got to a vote and he said thumbs down. So I think that's disgraceful. Plus, there are other things.
The president also lashed out at the husband of one of his closest advisors, Kellyanne Conway.
He's a whack job, there's no question about it, but I really don't know him. I think he's doing a tremendous disservice to a wonderful wife.
President Trump tweeted this morning calling George Conway Mr. Kellyanne Conway and said he was a stone-cold loser and husband from hell. Conway, who is a prominent conservative attorney, responded with, "You are nuts." That tweet has since been deleted.
No, I don't share those concerns.
Kellyanne Conway defends the president, even when he's sparring with her husband. She told Politico, "You think President Trump shouldn't respond when somebody, a non-medical professional, accuses him of having a mental disorder? You think he should just take that sitting down?" Mo Lalengi for News 3 Now.
And Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell tweeted support for Senator McCain this morning. And Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says he will reintroduce legislation to name the Russell Senate Office Building after McCain.
The massive chemical fire that burned for days at a Houston storage facility has been extinguished, but there are still concerns about smoke and debris. The fire at Intercontinental Terminals Company started Sunday, sending dark, thick plumes of smoke thousands of feet in the air. The tanks contained components of gasoline and materials used in nail polish remover. The cause of the fire is still unclear.
Well, still to come at 4, does your office have a March Madness bracket pool?
Well, you might not want to let your boss know about that. The cost of March Madness on American business is massive, but there is also an upside. We'll have the numbers when Live at 4 continues.
You're watching News 3 Now, live at 4.
Well, as March Madness heats up, many employees across the nation are jumping into office pools at work.
That could be costing employers a lot of money, but it may also come with a surprising benefit. In a survey, office workers admitted spending an average of 25 minutes during the workday on March Madness activities, like watching games and filling out brackets. Analysts say that adds up to an estimated $13 billion in lost productivity for employers, but that money may be buying companies a lot lot of goodwill because 84% of workers say office pools make their jobs more enjoyable.
It's fun when you get people from different departments all kind of clustered around the TV and having lunch and talking about basketball.
While most office pools involve a cash prize, Ted and his co-workers aren't playing for money, but the winner walks away with a full year of bragging rights. It's a good morale booster.
Did you do one?
I did do one, yeah.
How'd you pick?
What do you mean, how did I pick? I picked Wisconsin.
I know, but the other teams.
Oh, well, that's a long story. I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm just kind of guessing. But maybe that's, you know.
Team colors.
Yeah.
That's how I do it. Well, financial shares fell on Wall Street after the Fed announced no new interest rate hikes in 2019. The Dow Industrials lost 141 points, closing at 25,745. The NASDAQ Composite Index added 5, but the S&P 500 was off 8. As you know, parts of the Midwest crippled by days of historic flooding are bracing for even more rain.
At least 15 states are under flood watches and warnings, and it's only the first day of spring. Shane Hubbard is a research scientist at the Space Science and Engineering Center at UW-Madison. Hi, Shane. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
So you study this kind of thing. Put it sort of in context and perspective for us. How historic, unprecedented is this?
Along the Missouri River through Nebraska, they're setting records 3 feet, sometimes 4 feet above the previous crest. And some of these records go back 100 years. So regionally in that area, they're experiencing one of the worst floods they've ever seen. But we're also seeing flooding at the upper part of the Mississippi River and the lower part of the Mississippi River. So if we think about the entire system, it's strained from north to south across that entire Mississippi River basin. And those two floods are going to sort of come together in St. Louis at the beginning of next week. We continue to talk about flooding over the next couple of weeks and on into probably May and June.
Wow. Is this because of the heavy snowfall and rapid meltdown, or what's causing this?
So it's two different things. The southern branch of this flooding is because of El Nino. We've had a tremendously active jet stream along the southern part of the United States and dumped a bunch of rainfall, 16, 20 inches above normal over the past 90 days. The northern part of the Mississippi River system is the excess rain of the fall, and then the snowpack that we had in, and that's all melting and then draining into the river system.
So now what happens as we come into the rainiest part of the year?
This is our wettest part of the year. And so we have already streams that are above normal, and then that excess rainfall is just going to be, exacerbating that effect throughout the spring and months here. And here in Madison, in southern Wisconsin, we've had a lot of rain here as well. Streams are a little bit above normal, the lakes are above normal, and we'll probably be talking about flooding even here in the Dane County and southern Wisconsin areas through the June timeframe.
Does this seem to be happening more and more, or is it in my imagination?
It's happening more. I mean, you think about 2013, 2009, 2008, 2001, 1994, 1993. Maybe 4 or 5 of our highest precipitation years have occurred in the last 10 years for the entire United States. And so certainly in the upper Midwest, we've experienced a lot of flooding in this past 10 to 15 to 20 years than we had in the previous 20 to 30 to 40 years. And what that means is communities are having to plan for bigger floods. And they have to think about what's going to happen in the future if we get more flooding. I was in Sauk County and we were talking about what they could be doing potentially in the future with respect to construction, how they can mitigate some of the flood impacts in the future.
I think farmers are going to bear the brunt of this. The images coming out of Nebraska are heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, early rains sometimes can be beneficial for farming, but rains to this extent certainly are not going to help farming in Nebraska and Iowa, or even in Wisconsin. I mean, things have been really, really wet here as well.
Climate change?
There's a lot of, we look at some of the data and we look at the changes in temperature, but it's not just climate change. Also think about how we're changing our landscape. We're adding more buildings, we're adding more houses. Agricultural practices have changed. Every building that we add, every stormwater system we add, every time we change our farming practices, these things end up into our streams and rivers, oftentimes faster than they did before. And so we tend to find streams that become flashier, which means when the rain comes, the streams come up quicker, and then we're starting to see more of that water in the system.
Are you able to do any kind of a long-range forecast to look, years ahead, or is...
So we're doing that in Georgia, and hopefully we'll be doing that in Wisconsin here in the future. We're looking at 2050 and 2080. What we're finding is if we increase just small amounts to the floodplain, our damages are increasing by way more than that small change. So for example, when we increase our water by about 10%, we're seeing our damages go from 30 to 40% higher than they are today. And it's even higher when we think about the building construction that could be happening in the floodplain. That's just with existing construction. The damage is increasing by 30 and 40%.
Blacktop doesn't drain.
Blacktop does not drain.
Shane, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Very interesting. Good to see you, Shane. Thank you.
Well, still to come at 4, we have the story of a bear that's turned into a pet that's costing some Russian pilots a ton of money.
And there is a way that you can help pay the bear's expenses. If you wish, we'll tell you about it coming up after Dave's forecast.
Take a look at this. Miranda Rudolph really likes ranch dressing. In fact, she's covered in it. But there's a reason for this. Let's take a look at what happened. She is carrying a 22-quart container of the dressing when it slips out of her hands, crashing to the floor and splashes all the way up to the ceiling, covering her as well. Her co-workers at the Point Patio Bar and Bistro in California giving her the nicknames Ranch Girl and Mirancha.
That's a Midwesterner's dream right there, right?
And she's laughing about it, too.
That is funny.
She's kind of funny.
That is really funny.
And we've also got some amazing video from a shocking experience. A skier in Austria, he and a group of other skiers were getting ready to head down the slope when the snow collapsed under him. Look at this. Fortunately, no one was buried by this avalanche, and a mountain rescue team arrived to assist. They were surprised by the location of the avalanche, given that it's actually on a pretty popular route, but just unbelievable video there, and luckily everybody's okay.
Yeah, that just No warning on that.
That's been another huge problem this year with all the snow.
Sure.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
All right, well, what do we
about-
got, a half
yeah.
hour? 35 minutes?
Yeah, counting down the minutes as spring gets closer and closer. And temperatures will be a little bit on the mild side as we head into the next couple of days. But we'll talk about some changes on the way for early next week in your First Alert forecast in just a few minutes. Good afternoon. I hope you had a really nice Wednesday so far. Just a couple of minutes left of winter before we welcome in spring as part of the vernal equinox. This is when day and night are pretty much equal, about 12 hours to both of those. The sun rises due east everywhere on Earth. And actually, if we could see a little bit of the sunshine, it would actually appear to move in a straight line across the sky, which is pretty cool. And we want the clouds to clear for a number of reasons. And one of them is the last supermoon of 2019 actually will rise just a few hours after the start of spring in just a few minutes. Unfortunately, Mother Nature kind of has other plans for Wisconsin in general. We could see on our visible cloud track a lot of clouds still sticking around and more actually to the north. So it's not looking great as far as sky conditions tonight, but hopefully we'll get some clearing in spots and some of us can see that supermoon, because then we have to wait about a year to see the next one in February of 2020. And just in case that doesn't happen, Kenton Fowler has us covered. This is this morning as the moon was setting over Madison. Just an absolutely gorgeous photo. Thank you so much for sending that in. A live looking Madison, the Edgewater sky cam right now. And we got gray skies, and you know, I don't really think they're going to clear up anytime soon, but we can still put on a happy face that spring is on the way. 47 the high today, so a little bit above normal for this time of year. On our high-resolution Doppler, we could see a few sprinkles here and there across portions of southern Wisconsin as that cold front comes through. Hopefully that front actually moves a little bit faster, because maybe then we can get a little bit of that cloud cover out of here. But again, not looking all that likely. 47 right now in Madison, 48 in Janesville, 43 in Watertown. In the spots where that front has already moved through, we're already in the upper 30s in Viroqua and 43 in the Dells. So as far as temperatures go for the first week of spring, here's what we're thinking. We're kind of in the middle of cold air and mild air. Yes, we'll be on the mild side for a couple of days coming up. Temperatures will be near 50, and remember, we should be in the mid-40s for this time of year. As we head into Friday, we get a couple of high-pressure systems from Canada. Now, don't blame Canada for this. We're just going to see some cooler air come down from the north and filter in on Friday, getting our high temperatures back into the 40s. Relatively mild for the weekend until we get to Monday and Tuesday. You see some of those kind of more colder colors return to our map. On Monday, we'll struggle to get into the low 40s for highs, but I do think by the time we get into the middle of next week, we will be looking at the 50s returning, and by the time we get to next weekend, looking like our next cold front comes our way. So a little bit topsy-turvy, but that's what we can expect for the transition season of spring, right? Temperatures near 30 tonight. Hopefully those clouds will clear sooner rather than later, but on future track, it really seems like they are hanging tough as we get into the early morning hours of Thursday. However, good news, the sunshine does return for Thursday afternoon, and that helps temperatures get close to 50. On Friday, we have some northerly air filtering in, and that's going to help temperatures kind of stay a little bit lower on Friday with highs in the mid-40s. We're in the low 50s for Saturday and Sunday, with a chance of some rain showers for Sunday, into early Monday morning. We're dry on Tuesday and Wednesday, with temperatures hovering in the upper 40s and lower 50s, and then close to 60 by Thursday, but we welcome in another chance for some showery activity, and we're, by the time we get to next weekend, in the 40s and 50s once again. So pretty consistent from Mother Nature, and at least over the next couple of days, we will remain dry across southern Wisconsin.
But we may not see the supermoon tonight.
I really hope we do. The chances are not looking all that good. These clouds are really being stubborn, but I can be more stubborn, Mother Nature, so hopefully I'll win out in the end.
Moonrise is what, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock?
Yeah, around 8 or 9 tonight.
All right, well, fingers crossed.
Yep.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dave.
Dave.
A young brown bear orphaned by his mother has become a pet project for a group of Russian pilots.
They've cared for the animal for years now, but its upkeep has become unbearable. As Terry Okita reports, the pilots are hoping that a new crowdfunding campaign will help.
Monsieur the brown bear cub was just a month old and the size of a cat when Russian pilots found him abandoned near an old airfield about 100 miles from Moscow. Their furry friend soon became an honorary co-pilot, learning how to step on board for new adventures.
Monsieur.
3 years later, Monsieur is now 550 pounds and climbing to new heights. As he grew, wildlife experts told caretakers the animal was too used to people and couldn't survive on his own. Pilot Andrei Ivanov gets plenty of bear hugs since he's the only person who enters Monsieur's enclosure. Ivanov calls Monsieur a cute, interested animal of advanced intelligence. Over the years, the connection between man and bear has soared, but so has the cost of care. Each month, pilots fork over as much as $800 to feed and house him, so they've launched a campaign to raise cash on the crowdfunding site Donation Alerts. Monsieur even has a live stream YouTube page where animal lovers can watch his every move. The pilots say they continually get advice from wildlife experts on how to care for the bear and insist he's not aggressive. As you might have guessed, this bear loves honey, which caretakers slather on his enclosure. They're hoping fans on social media will do their part to help with Monsieur's bear necessities. Terry Okita, CBS News.
And money raised will also go toward an expanding roaming area for Mansour, and a swimming pool for the summer season.
And all the honey that he can eat.
I wouldn't put my hand in
No,
that bear's
I don't
mouth,
think so either.
He's a brave soul. Well, still to come at 4, the opioid epidemic claims more victims than just those that overdose.
We're talking about the
It's a
families
heartache
that those
thousands of
victims
parents
leave
across the
behind.
country.
We'll see how some cope with the heartbreak when Live at 4 continues.
From opioids every day in the
Here's a live look downtown on this Wednesday afternoon. Kind of gray, a little cloudy.
Yeah, chilly out there.
A little chilly as well, that's true. Each and every day in this country, 100 people die from an opioid overdose. It is an epidemic.
And in its wake, hundreds of thousands of families are torn apart. Survivors often ridden with guilt.
30 years old.
Cheryl Jouer starts each day scanning the obituaries, a daily ritual since the death of her son Corey in 2011 from a drug overdose.
Not a day goes by that I don't think of him. I miss him. I just miss him a lot. No mom should have to do this, Corey.
It is a heartache thousands of parents across the country know firsthand. According to government figures, more than 100 people die from opioids every single day in the United States. Left behind, a trail of broken families, some who went bankrupt or close to it, others raising grandkids. But in almost all cases, guilt.
I was at a loss for how to help him because he had overdosed about 4 times.
The guilt is really what I think about. Did I do enough?
I was willing to do whatever it took to help my child.
When Jacqueline Perrin found out her son was addicted to painkillers and later heroin, she quit her job and tried everything to help him, even confronting his drug dealers.
There were folks sitting on their porch with guns, barred windows, and I would go in there to get him, and there would be a scene because he would be humiliated that his mother would come there in that situation.
For many families, the battle against opioids does not end with the death of a child.
My main goal is to try to save someone's life and to make people not ashamed of this is a disease.
It's a goal shared by other parents caught up in the opioid epidemic.
My 17-year-old daughter, she's not doing very well.
The Center on Addiction has helped train hundreds of parents to become coaches for other families before it's too late.
It produces much more of an empathic approach to people struggling with substances and much less of a stigmatized view that this is just bad, morally bankrupt behavior.
When Joelle lost her son Corey, seeing her dancing at her wedding when he was 11 years old, she didn't know where to turn.
I wanted to die every single day. I had nobody to talk to that understood what I was going through.
That's why she started her own support group called Team Sharing and reads obituaries to see where she can help. She recently met with a police administrator outside Boston whose son died of an overdose several months ago.
They'll always have the pain of grief and losing their child. I can't take that away. But what I can do is help them know that they're not alone.
Parents united by grief, hoping to prevent another loss.
And we ask that you bless this food in Jesus' name.
Sometimes you just need someone to talk to.
Oh, absolutely. Very sad.
I can imagine the pain of all that. Well, on a lighter note, Lisa Briggs is here with some tasks we should be doing outside now that spring is here.
We're going to head out to the weather patio. We'll join her next when Live at 4 continues.
Good afternoon. Here is your Wednesday First Alert traffic update, taking a live look at the Beltline and Park Street. We are looking pretty good in both directions, at least on this camera, and really across the Beltline, not too many delays popping up, a few brake lights here and there. Average speed, though, on the Beltline pretty close to normal, anywhere from about 50 to 55 miles per hour. Now, there are some stretches where that speed goes a little bit closer to about 30 or 40, but overall, not too bad. Eastbound Verona Road to John Nolan Drive, that'll cost you 6 minutes right now, average speed of around 45 miles per hour. And some other routes, southbound on 151 Sun Prairie to downtown, that's 6 minutes, average speed of around 30 miles per hour. And that is your First Alert traffic update.
All right, Dave, thank you. The National Cherry Blossom Festival begins today in our nation's capital. The event celebrates the beauty of nature and international friendship. Japan gifted the U.S. more than 3,000 cherry trees back in 1912. The trees haven't bloomed as of yet. This is video from last year. The National Park Service says this year's peak bloom is predicted for April 3rd to the 6th.
Oh, that's on my bucket list.
I've always wanted to see that.
Me too. Me
Absolutely.
too.
Well, happy spring, sort of. A little chilly out here.
We might be getting a little overly optimistic.
12 minutes, it's still winter.
Yes,
that's the problem.
What do we have, 12 minutes left?
12 minutes, yes.
Okay.
Lisa Briggs is here. We're going to talk about pruning.
We're going to talk about pruning.
We should prune and shouldn't prune.
And I actually have some cherry blossoms with me.
Great.
There you go.
Great.
Yes.
So this is the time to prune some things, but not others.
Correct. So things that you definitely do not want to prune unless there's, breakage are evergreens. Going to want to wait and do those in June.
Okay.
But things that you can prune now are definitely any shade trees, any shrubs that bloom after June 1st. If you're going to prune things like lilacs or magnolias, things that bloom early, anything that you remove is going to cut off flowers. So do that judiciously.
Those buds were set last fall?
Those buds were set last fall. But things like hydrangea or spirea, those things set their flowers on new growth, so those you can go ahead and whack back with abandon.
And it's the cherry blossom.
Oh,
This
it's
is
so
a
pretty.
cherry blossom. So when you're pruning, if you are pruning things that flower before they leaf out, so we're talking about cherry blossoms, like the serviceberry that you guys have by the front door of the studio, forsythia, for sure, pussy willows.
So these are all things you do not prune.
These things, if you're going to prune, if you have to prune these, and you can, you're just sacrificing flowers, bring these inside for forcing.
Okay.
Now,
So
what does
that's
that
what
mean?
we're doing here. So forcing is sort of the art of getting things to flower ahead of their time. A lot of times you hear it with things like bulb pans, where these were planted last fall and allowed to chill and then brought out now so they can kind of cheer us up on these gloomy days. But it's a good thing to do with those branches that you're cutting. So you'll prune these outside, they'll just have nice buds, and you can do that this weekend, you can see. And then if you bring them in the house and give them a good fresh cut and put them in some cool water, over the next few days to a week, those flower buds will develop and they'll bloom in the house.
Oh, that's great.
So if you have to prune those early spring blooming things, you might as well enjoy the little bits that you're taking off.
Okay, what else can we do right now outside?
Outside, you can certainly start to rake up your lawn if you left leaves on it and the snow is done. Too early really to plant anything. You might be able to get your raised beds, kind of working if they're starting to thaw, if the soil is starting to thaw. You don't really want to plant anything until all that moisture is out of the soil.
No fertilizing the lawn.
No fertilizing. You don't want to do any of that till things are actively growing. Too early to put down like crabgrass preventive. It's okay. We've got a couple weeks to go.
We're all kind of itchy after this past winter.
Kind of itchy.
We can't wait.
Yes.
What is this that you brought?
So this is a hyacinth. So this is another bulb that is really popular for forcing. I also brought some tools. So my rule of thumb when you're pruning, if they're really small, you can use these little nippers. These are like amazing, really sharp.
Mm-hmm.
If it's less than the size of your little finger, then you can use pruners. This is a bypass pruner. There's also the ones that have the flat blade that they use. It's called an anvil pruner. I like bypass myself. If it's bigger than your thumb, break out a pruning saw.
Okay.
Yes, and these are all by Fiskars, and so this will make quick work. Got really good teeth. It'll make quick work of bigger branches. Things that you want to prune right away would be oaks and ash, anything that's got like insect issues. So you'd want to do those this weekend.
All right. And We have some daffodils apparently coming up. Oh, way
Yeah,
back
we
there.
do.
So
I see them.
things are starting to come up.
Things are starting to come up, and anything that's coming up, if we get some cold weather or some more snow, Mother Nature has got that built in, so not to worry about that. Don't panic.
And the polar vortex we had is not going to affect the bulbs you planted last fall.
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
Well, that's good. That's really
yeah. Well, luckily, before the polar vortex hit, we got a good dose of snow, and that acts as a great blanket for anything that's underground. I think we might see some damage on some weird evergreens or broadleaf evergreens like holly or boxwood, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Spring is coming.
Spring is coming. It'll be here.
Just not right now.
Yeah, not this moment, right at this moment.
I love it.
All right, Lisa, thanks.
Thanks, Lisa. Good to see you.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon. We'll have a final check of your forecast coming up. Do you I'll tell you, it's a little chilly out there.
Yeah. Couple of raindrops.
Yeah, it just started raining.
Yeah,
We were
I
coming
mean,
in.
Mother Nature not exactly welcoming in
What are we,
spring.
5 minutes?
Yeah, yes. Not the best way to welcome in the season, but I guess we'll have to deal with it. You can see a couple of those drops falling on the WISC-TV Skycam in Madison, and our high-resolution Doppler picking up some of those sprinkles as well. A little bit on the breezy side as that front continues to move through. Temperatures are in the upper 40s for now in Madison. I expect those to drop a little bit as we head into the next couple of hours. 43 in Mineral Point and 37 in Viroqua. So for tonight, temperatures will fall eventually to near 30 degrees, becoming partly cloudy. Another eventually on that one. Hopefully we can lose the clouds sooner rather than later, but chances of that are not looking all that good. Still, I would keep an eye out for the supermoon if we can see it tonight, but again, not looking all that optimistic, and temperatures are in the 30s for much of this evening.
You know, this is all relative. We're complaining how chilly it is out.
Yeah.
A month ago, 47 degrees.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's life-changing right there, for sure.
So, yeah, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, thank you.
Dave.
And tomorrow here on Live at 4, our Jay Wilson reports live from San Jose, California, as the Badgers get ready for March Madness.
And our Harvey Briggs will tell us what he thinks of the Acura MDX Sport Hybrid 3-row SUV. That's tomorrow on Live at 4.
With these
In today's Final Touch, the American Kennel Club is out with its list of top dog breeds.
And Labrador Retrievers are not letting go of their hold on U.S. dog lovers. Labs topped the list for the 28th year in a row. Yet there's been plenty of movement over time in the purebred popularity ladder. After Labs, the top 5 breeds nationwide are German Shepherds, Golden Retrievers,